Welcome to NFL Daily, where we just asked Siri, what phase of free agency is it when we're leading the show with Mason Rudolph? I'm Gregg Rosenthal. I'm here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with my friend Patrick Claybon.
It's the phase where Aaron Rodgers' ears start to perk up. It's like, okay, now it's my time. There's too much attention going to other people, but when Mason Rudolph is leading the show, Aaron's like, okay, maybe it's time.
That's not a great tease for this show, and yet this show is going to be fantastic because we're going to hit. There's a decent amount of news. I just find like that Steelers quarterback situation interesting, so I decided.
Or hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious would be another. Depressing would be another way to describe it. Embarrassing. A lot of different ways you could describe it. So we're going to hit the news. There's definitely less of it here. And we're going to listen to some sound of some players in new places. And then we're going to get you out of here by telling some teams we want a little more from them. They've just been a little too quiet. That feel like some holes are out there.
It's almost the converse of, because you debuted, you better be right.
That's true.
On Insiders this week, where we chided decisions that you better be right about.
Yeah, you better be right.
This is like,
you better be right about Sam Darnold.
Yeah, you better do something.
Yes,
is what we're doing today.
We don't even have something to say. You better be right to these teams. They haven't done anything. Just do something. At least the Seahawks they were bold.
Yeah,
like you can. I don't remember who else I said they better be right. The Cowboys for just kind of not really doing a lot. They would fit in this segment as well. But let's start the news with Mason Rudolph. I just think it's funny. We're at the backup quarterback situation, and he signed on Thursday for 2 years, $8 million. He played pretty well whenever he got the chance for the Steelers over a long stretch of being their second and third quarterback, and has carved out himself a nice little career. Was definitely better than Will Levis in Tennessee for what it's worth last year, although didn't look as good the longer that he played, which happens with Mason Rudolph. But the reason I'm leading is just like, what does this mean, Patrick? Does this mean there's less of a chance of Aaron Rodgers? Is Russell Wilson potentially competing with Mason Rudolph? What are the chances of Mason Rudolph week one starter?
I would have to think that maybe Russ coming back would supersede Mason Rudolph week one. I think Mason Rudolph is a signing that you can do either way.
Yes.
But the ultimate thing it's a sign of is how being in the Aaron Rodgers game can set your season development back purely because you're having to wait and make decisions with this big unknown and you don't know what he's going to want to do once he decides to sign, right? So if you're in that game, you put yourself in this situation where like, yeah, you got to sign Mason Rudolph for an X amount of money, which I guess we get the backup quarterback value. Like, so Daniel Jones is worth Mason Rudolph plus Johnny Hecker or something. That's how you get into the backup quarterback range. But yeah, it's Mason Rudolph on March 13th.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. And yet, while they wait for Rodgers, it just strikes me. How did they get into this position? And I do think there is absolutely fair criticism that Mike Tomlin and their GM now, Omar Khan, and going back to their last GM, Kevin Colbert, don't know how to build an offense that's consistently productive enough. It's just. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, you do, and this is true of a lot of franchises, but they just haven't had a clear idea for them to be sitting here just waiting for Rodgers to throw up the bat signal.
Yeah, eventually it would happen on accident, right? Like we had the hot Joe Flacco stretch in Cleveland.
Sure.
Right? Like what period of Steelers offense these past 4 years have we really seen an offensive explosion?
Yeah, you can go all the way back to 2019, I would say, when it was sort of the end of Big Ben, when Mason Rudolph actually played quite a bit for them. Kevin Stefanski, I think, does know how to build an offense. Actually, I don't know if the entire organization does. They've brought in the wrong personnel, not just at quarterback, but like if you put Kevin Stefanski as the offensive coordinator for Pittsburgh, I think you could fly. And we'll see. I think the chances of Mason Rudolph starting week one are 37%. I think it's higher than people.
That's a dangerous number.
Maybe that's if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back. I mean, doesn't choose Pittsburgh, which I have to think the longer this goes on, he is just seeing if there's any chance that Minnesota will take him, because we keep seeing these national reporters saying, well, they've talked about it a little. They're kind of considering it. And clearly it's the best option if he was given a chance to start in Minnesota between Pittsburgh, New York, and Minnesota. There is reporting that offers are on the table for Rodgers from Pittsburgh and New York. So it's not the teams waiting around. They've offered him a contract. I just think he looks at Minnesota and is like, is there any way I can get in there? Maybe that's it. Or you just think he wants to dominate the news cycle?
Well, he wants to dominate the news cycle regardless.
Right.
As you pointed out this week, he starred in a reality show about himself titled Enigma.
Right.
This is a person, and again, like I'm on TV, like I'm okay with things I say and do being disseminated. I like attention. I think Aaron Rodgers likes it a little bit more than I do. And so it doesn't hurt. I don't know if it's basing his entire process off it. He may just not care about the implications it means for other people, right?
Right. And I've thought, look, I live in Santa Monica. PCH is closed for the most part to non-residents above Entrada, which is just about a mile from my house. I go running down there. So I don't know if I have access to go up to PCH, but I could, if Rodgers is just walking back and forth on the beach in Malibu, I could probably find him. It's it says 27 miles of unencumbered beach or whatever. Like, that's not that long. You can see it all from the road. Yeah,
I don't really think he'd be out there very long.
Oh, he's not just hanging.
Because those familiar with the Bay of Los Angeles, you can almost see every spot from any other spot.
That's what I'm saying. I could go find him. Maybe he's lower. Most of the people don't live way up there, but maybe he does. Who really knows? Let's stick with the quarterbacks. Even though these aren't the biggest stories, I just like, for the sake of the show, keeping them together. Kyle Shanahan finally got his guy. Mac Jones is a San Francisco 49er.
Destiny. I saw Ian ask what the universe would be like in the butterfly effect where he did get Mac Jones and not Trey Lance.
It's pretty interesting.
I think we'd be in the same exact scenario, except Mac Jones would currently be like a former Cowboys quarterback. Like I don't think anything would have changed.
Wait, Mac Jones drafted by the 49ers.
Go ahead and flip-flop both of them.
Okay.
I don't think anything changes.
I think because Kyle Shanahan is incapable of not helping his quarterback get 7 yards per attempt, like that's the baseline, maybe even 7.4, that they would have had a modicum of success and he would have had a better career overall, but he would be an ex-49er by this point because he would have shown himself to be Mac Jones.
Yeah, he would have been far more successful because that 49ers team was very good.
Right.
I think the reason that Brock Purdy is about to get this money is because we would finally not see somebody have that success with this edition of the 49ers.
Yes.
I don't think you can just plug any old person in and have 7 yards per attempt anymore.
Right, but maybe Brock Purdy doesn't get signed, or maybe it still all happens.
Dangerous.
Look, I'm out there having said when Mac Jones had that rookie season after that year, I would take him long term at that point over Russell Wilson, which for like a minute looked like a pretty good take, and then went back to a bad take, and now it's just kind of an irrelevant take. But if Mac Jones is ever gonna fulfill his destiny and get back to the player he was as a rookie, which was like pretty solid. Yeah. It was pretty solid. It was a guy who was going to have a long career, which after his last year in Jacksonville, I was not convinced was going to happen. So Kyle Shanahan can try to help him out. The Titans also signed a quarterback. It's Brandon Allen. But I put this in the news because it supports my growing suspicion based on nothing other than logic that they will take Cam Ward number 1 overall. And I think if you're taking Cam Ward number 1 overall, what are the types of moves you might make in free agency? How about at quarterback, where you have no one? How about nothing except signing Brandon Allen? Isn't that what you would do?
Yeah, probably. Get Kevin Zeitler in, right?
Sure.
Operate things such that Dan Moore is a body that plays a position. Right?
He got $50 million guaranteed because other teams were trying to sign him. The Titans weren't the only one.
So if we say, hey, paying $15 million to a player on the offensive line, these are all moves that I would make. If I was going to draft Cam Ward number 1, I'd probably do some more stuff. But why push it?
I think Brandon Allen is actually the biggest signifier of any moves they've made because I really believe you would have either brought back Rudolph or you would have been aggressive in the Jameis, Mariota, like someone that would be a real bridge. option, and they just didn't go that route. They went with a guy who's a career number 3 who would kind of make sense as a backup if they end up dumping Will Levis. And that, to me, I really think Cam Ward is by far the best quarterback in this draft. Why would the Titans not take that quarterback? And I think it's heading in that direction.
You have a 2 in place. There's no reason, like the value for him elsewhere, unless somebody's really taking a flyer on the potential of Levis at this point. Yeah, you go ahead, sign a 3, you draft your 1, problem solved.
And I would guess if that scenario happens, Will Levis is traded for a 5th round pick in August. It's like something like that.
I mean, fifth would be nice. They'd take a 5 right now.
Would they? I mean, Will Levis isn't. You got a chance with Will Levis at least to have a career. I mean, if Blaine Gabbert lasted 10 plus years, there are guys who figure it out a little bit that have physical talent that you know.
I just mean relative to the value of other trades.
It's fair.
5 feels like they'd run up to be like, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, you're probably right. Here's our Cooper Kupp date of the show. We didn't mention on Wednesday's show with Nick Shook that officially Cooper Kupp is a free agent. He is on my top 101. He's in the 70s. I think he's a role player. I have him ahead of Keenan Allen, for instance. I had him behind Mike Williams, who we'll get to in a second. His market, according to our insider, Ian Rappaport, is about $11-12 million a year. So I think that supports what I'm saying. Like, that's a little above where De'Ami Brown and Tutu Atwell got. That's a number 3 receiver type of guy. Ian mentioned 3 teams specifically. He said the Seahawks, which there's been a lot of buzz about. Feels like they might be the favorites. The Texans, who have a former Rams staffer, Nick Caley, taking over the offense, and the Jaguars, who have a former Rams staffer as the head coach and as the GM. Is there anywhere you would like to see Cooper Kupp?
Well, initially when the story first dropped, I'm thinking Baltimore Raven, Cooper Kupp, where, and I know the idea that people see of Cooper Kupp is him in motion and it's shocking a defensive end before like coming back into the route. I want to see less of that from Cooper Kupp at this stage of his career. Just out wide, running routes, getting open, just being able to do the traditional things, which is why I kind of want him out of the McVay tree. And like,
the Ravens aren't happening after that Hopkins move.
Yeah,
that's like you only have one of those. Probably, I guess you never know. There hasn't been any buzz, but just feels like you have one of those slots, and they filled it with DeAndre Hopkins.
Arizona would be fun.
Yeah. They could use another receiver. I've been surprised how quiet they've been on offense. So that's a big name. So is Trey Hendrickson. A report from Diana Rossini of The Athletic from other teams saying that the Bengals' asking price for Trey Hendrickson is, quote, ridiculous, which, if you know how the Bengals have done business in the past, is not surprising to me at all. Because I think their end game here is to be like, yeah, we tried to trade you. But you know what would be great? If you just kept playing for the Bengals and we have you under contract and we have shown the willingness to stare our players down if they don't want to come to terms with the contract we are willing to give them. So it's not surprising to me that they're probably, and by ridiculous, they're probably asking for a first is what I would guess would be classified as ridiculous.
Would a first be ridiculous?
Maybe some team thinks so if they were in the top half of the draft. Maybe it's not ridiculous, but he is an aging pass rusher. Plus the contract you have to give him. If DK Metcalf can't get more than a first, I don't think Trey Hendrickson
Yeah, that's true.
can.
I just...
Gino got a late third.
Whether it's... Whether it's whispers of like who's interested in Rodgers or a trade being ridiculous, I know I'm old fashioned. I could just go for some quotes these days. I'd like to know what ridiculous is. I don't know.
This was my attempt of sprinkling in a little spice with a big name into the news rundown. You know, going with this ridiculous story.
No, is it spice?
It's a little spicy, just to talk about Hendrickson, just to say where he's at. Might remind the people. It's been quiet on the Hendrickson front this week. And yes, I think the Bengals showed their hands when at the combine, I believe, certainly it was to the media, they said, look, we want to give Trey Hendrickson a new contract, but it takes two sides to agree on that contract, but we would be happy to give him a new contract. And I was like, okay, this is going to take a while. Like they're just going to stare him down. They'll say they'll try to trade him.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
And I know it's improper because nobody, it seems like nobody would ever do it, but Duke Tobin, like, tell us what the price is. Like, well,
okay,
what's the gap?
Okay.
Like Trey, let us know what you're asking for, and Duke, let us know what you would like to pay him, and then we'll try to meet in the middle. That feels like, sometimes it seems like these things are nebulous and like, oh, it's hard to do. Is it? Like the player wants a price,
Right.
and the team wants a price, and let's figure that out, because I don't necessarily think it's that complicated.
I would love nothing less than the Bengals starting training camp with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Trey Hendrickson all holding out. I just don't want that future. And yet it seems on the table. I'm going to actually make a prediction here on March 13th. Jamar Chase will have signed and will be there, but T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson will not. That's my very, very early prediction. You know who's going to be back in a familiar training camp? How about Mike Williams coming back to L.A.?
There's a new facility now, Mike.
Yeah. Was Mike Williams ever in San Diego? No, he's not that old.
No.
There's not many San Diego Chargers left.
Yeah.
In fact, I think
they're all gone.
I think they're all gone now. I like that. $6 million betting on a bounce back from a guy that didn't look 100% recovered from his torn ACL last year. Makes sense for a guy who never built his game off speed anyways, that he could be in a better spot at less money. He's obviously familiar, and I'm sure got a good referral from one Justin Herbert, who loved throwing to that man.
And he comes from, like, it was Nathaniel Hackett mode Jets offense to like the falling apart Steelers offense. He was also coming back off of an injury.
Yeah.
There's cause to believe that this could be like a similar version to the Mike at the end of the Los Angeles run the first time, the one that was playing very, very good before he got hurt.
Yeah, he's not that old. He started his career in 2017, has certainly had a lot of injuries, but they needed to add another receiver. They didn't get Evan Ingram signed, which was something I was looking forward to maybe for the Chargers. They don't have like a ton of firepower still on offense. They added Najee Harris. We'll see what else they do. Speaking of firepower, I think if you look at the rundown, it'll probably give it away, but I'm going to give a test here. Don't look.
Okay.
What receiver led the NFL in EPA per route run last year?
Route run.
I believe.
EPA per route
Is that even a stat? I might be messing this up.
No. Adam Thielen?
It's Adam Thielen.
Wait, I got it right?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Well, you looked at the rundown.
I didn't look at the rundown. That was legit.
Oh, my God. Well, then I'm really impressed. Patrick is so happy. I don't think he's a good enough actor or...
His eyes were up the whole time.
I'm
the
so
second
bad
he
at
said
trivia.
don't look, he looked straight up.
But
or
you
at
could have
me.
looked at it earlier in the day and Thielen's there, but I'll give you some credit. That's a good job.
Hey.
That's amazing. They actually gave Adam Thielen a raise. I was wondering when I saw that they were restructuring, I was like, what? Like, they're giving this man a pay cut after what he did? No, it was the opposite. He has been so good at such a low price there that he was like, yeah, I'll continue to play football, but what? Can you just give me a raise? And so they gave him a rare 1-year raise, and he'll be a free agent if he chooses to keep playing football. He did say publicly he was kind of thinking about whether to walk away or not, and so they gave him a nice raise. What a great signing he's been.
A raise in this year?
Yes, yeah, a rare one where...
So it's not like it's hurting the cap.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They have nothing but cap space. They did the Gronk move the Patriots did a couple times. The Edelman, like where the guy was on such a bad contract, every once in a while they would just like give him a raise. Max Crosby got one of these last year, and it was like $5 million. Just, hey, you deserve more money. Saquon, it's not the same thing because they extended Saquon out. They moved the money around. This is just like we don't know what the terms are, but he has more in his pocket. He deserves it.
I think it's indicative of like a value, and shout out to them for rewarding Adam Thielen for his contributions, because I think there's a viability that people see with Bryce that might not have ever happened if not for Adam Thielen. Like
Fair.
We really might not have ever seen that run last year.
I can't find the stat that I'm looking for, but I'm really gonna try. I just probably made it up. The Cards, right after we taped last night's show, after I castigated them for not spending enough money, they signed Dalvin Tomlinson, 2 years, $29 million. So they spent some more money.
They do it.
Haven't done a lot on offense. I think they've swung and missed on a lot of free agents where they were second or third in the bidding. But Dalvin Tomlinson was one of those guys that got cut by the Browns. He's making a lot of money, and then got picked up within a second and was playing at a very high level last season.
Yeah, a nice finish to the season, and it's a guy that we're not necessarily going to have to Google, and so this is not that name value is what the Cardinals were missing. They really need a playmaker, honestly, out on the edge, which is something that they go out and sign Josh Sweat. I'm sure they're going to draft draft an edge as well, but it's still a need.
Brought back Baron Browning. He was going to be in our segment later, where we listen to some players in new places, but he's not in a new place. He's actually been in Arizona. So why don't we listen to Baron Browning about why he decided to stay in Arizona?
Why sign before free agency and have to see what your value was in the open market?
I mean, if you got a girlfriend who's a 10, why play around?
It's true. And honestly, in terms of answering the question, right, you satisfy a couple of things. Baron Browning's significant other feels a little more secure.
Okay.
After hearing that. So that's job number one. And yeah, it shows that you can be faithful to a thing. There's a lot of people out there that doesn't necessarily fly for.
I liked your take before the show, which was, there's more than just physical appearance to consider.
Well, yeah, you have to evaluate the whole thing, and I think that's what he's saying. That his circumstances,
that's what was 10.
You can find somebody that uplifts you, that you enjoy being around, that you like their smile, and it's not just an outward physical appearance. There are folks who like to branch out. They may see more than 110 out there, and
Sure.
shout out to them as well. But Baron Browning is a faithful person.
I
just hope the Cardinals will be faithful to him.
Well, they gave him $15 million over 2 years. That's solid. Who was the guy? Daniel. From Love Is Blind. I thought you just were saying there's more than appearances there. Not that he has a bad appearance, but he was a little worried about it, and he got it done in the end. He won that season.
He overcame the barrier, and shout out to all the short kings out there. If you are on reality TV, do not mention that you're short, because they will play it, because other people don't see being short the way that short people.
He led with it.
He could have not led with it,
Yeah.
but the Love Is Blind producers were like, "Oh, he's insecure because he's short, because we don't like short people, so we'll make him."
Damn! Wow, Patrick, always sticking up for the groups that are unfairly treated, and we appreciate your support, Patrick.
Thank you for being a speaker for the shorts.
The Raiders signed Raheem Mostert. Their backfield does not look great on paper. He didn't look 100% for most of last year. Definitely a red flag that the Dolphins let him go. The Commanders signed another former Patriot, Dietrich Wise. They also had brought in Jonathan Jones. KJ Osborne is on that team, by the way, too. They brought him back. Speaking of Patriots, former Patriots, the Patriots released David Andrews, one of the few guys left from a few Super Bowl winning teams. He was a rookie, I think the year before they had the 28-3 comeback. A great longtime Patriot. Sounds like he's going to retire. They got a lot of people to put into that Patriots Hall of Fame, but I suspect David Andrews will be there eventually, a team captain from very early in his run. And then the Eagles, they keep picking at the margins. They got a lot of dead cap money. They got a lot of contracts to worry about. I thought they'd be a little more aggressive in free agency. We'll see if there's a trade. They did sign former Patriot Josh Uche.
Just getting value. We gotta find out where the meat of this comes. But yeah, Josh Uche is your dude.
Well, when he did,
needle not necessarily moved by.
No, not moved, but it's similar to A.J. Dillon landing in Philadelphia, which is that if these guys are ever going to get it done again at the NFL level, they found the perfect spot. I mean, if Uche can't be a situational pass rusher with the Eagles, he's not going to be able to get it done. He's had a very strange career, reportedly turned down a lot of guaranteed money last year to stay with the Patriots, and then couldn't get on the field that consistently, which was a theme of his time in New England. But he did have that 1 year, and if you look at pass rush production per snap over the course of his career, it's outstanding. And yet teams haven't really trusted him. He went to the Chiefs and couldn't get on the field for them either.
Well, this is the spot for it. This is the rotational spot in that Fangio defense where, they're cycling guys in and out of the line. And if you have to deliver on 8 pass rushes, and he's a very efficient pass rusher,
there you go.
Here's your 8 snaps.
Yep, maybe taking that Bryce Huff spot, although he's still there, making like $20 million a year. I think that's one of those contracts that's just not worth even cutting. Just see how he shows up to camp and see if he's better, because he's shown a level that made them give him that money, and see if he can get better. And if camp really doesn't go well, maybe he doesn't make that team. Alexander Madison The running back helps to replace Raheem Mostert in Miami, and the Titans, who have been making a decent amount of moves. They signed Draymond Jones, the defensive lineman, who's a bit of a free agent bust for the Seahawks, for $10 million. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to listen to a little sound from some of the players in new spots, and we're going to go back and forth and choose some teams we'd like to see a little more from. Just like, show me something.
A little more. Open up that kimono.
Back on NFL Daily. I asked what phase of free agency this is. It's the one where the big names who were signed are now showing up, and you got 4 or 5 different Patriots holding up jerseys. Robert Spillane's got a 14. Milton Williams, I liked, was just like kind of wearing an old polo. You know, don't get dressed up. Why bother?
It's a nice polo.
It was fine. Let's listen to some of the comments that we heard with players showing up in their new spot. And we'll start in Seattle, where they obviously made the big move that they got to be right about. Sam Darnold. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, I think maybe Clint could talk a little bit more about that in detail, but I know foundation is the run game. And we're gonna run the rock. I know Clint's big on running the rock, and you got to do that and building that off of play action, keepers, and dropping back when you have to.
Well, yeah, that's what you want to hear from the guy you just gave $55 million guaranteed to. What do you do well, Sam? Well, we got to run the football.
I think the issue is because it was asked about how he is going to excel in the offense.
Sure, he still said, like, the running game's going to be
Sam
good.
quickly provided the correction, like, hey, you should ask the offensive coordinator these questions. I'm Sam Darnold, but if you're asking me about the offense, Clint likes to run the ball, but I'm saying today that I'm Sam. I go out there and I execute whatever because I'm $100 million Sam Darnold.
I'm the type of quarterback that you got to build a great running game for, or else I'm not going to work.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
The Hive has destroyed Greg.
Yeah.
Greg is going to rip Sam Darnold apart. 17
It's
weeks.
not an inspiring way to answer a question, although Darnold was beloved in Minnesota and never strikes you as a guy who's going to have inspiring quotes or speeches, but beloved by his teammates throughout the NFL.
I think that was inspiring.
I think it was fine. Kenny Pickett is a Cleveland Brown. It kind of slipped under the radar, and this
for good reason
quote from him caught my eye.
I just think it's a great opportunity to go compete again. That's really all you can ask for. And that's what I was told here, coming in here, having an opportunity to compete again. So I'm very excited for that. I do view myself as a starter. I'm sure they're going to bring in another veteran and who knows what else. But, I'm just excited to be here and compete with whoever.
Who's it going to be? Kirk? I don't like the idea that if Kenny Pickett's competing to start. I don't know if that's going to happen, but he thinks it's going to happen.
Yeah, he's a competitor. I like that out of Kenny Pickett. I do feel, because I felt strongly that it was going to be Kirk Cousins early on. The longer it takes, the less likely I feel it is. I feel like if a trade were to happen, we're kind of losing the momentum on that.
Yeah, it could happen after the draft or something like that, though. That's what the insiders are saying. Kirk wants to make sure that they're not going to draft a quarterback over the top of him.
I think he's lost that.
He has no trade clause. He has a no trade clause. He kind of does have that privilege. It's crazy, but it's true. Yeah, I guess. I mean, right. He could exercise that, and they could say, "Well, we're not going to wait around for you." That's a potential way that a team like the Browns could push him on that, but he does have a no trade clause.
I did see his strategic move where he wanted to talk to Mr. Blank, right?
Yes.
And then that didn't pan out, and then he was in the Oval Office what felt like moments later, like posing up with Don.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was like one story immediately to another. It's like, okay, there's a strategy, I guess. We'll see. We'll see what Kirk O'Chains comes up with. I guess masquerading all that culture only meant so much to some people.
That is funny. You're breaking news to me. I love that. Joey Bosa, speaking of guys from political families, let's listen to him in Buffalo.
Really enjoyed my years in LA, but coming to a team back like, the Ohio State days where you're really living in a football town with an unbelievable fan base. It's really got me excited.
That was a shot at Los Angeles, Greg?
Maybe a little one. A little one. I get it. I mean, the Chargers, you shouldn't be taking any shots at their fans. And I don't think that's what he meant. But Joey Bosa, if nothing else, he's a football guy.
Yeah.
And so maybe he wasn't feeling that love.
Up there with real football people, unlike the people here that are fake.
No, look, Chargers fans, they're real ones. And a lot of them.
I think so. I think Joey Bosa is the person that needs to have that conversation.
He was a San Diego Charger. And so he knows the heartbreak that those fans had. And a lot of them have traveled up to the games and whatnot. But it's not, I wouldn't say the Chargers have overtaken the city in the sense that, like, you know, the city, that you feel the buzz around LA about the Chargers as much as maybe Joey Bosa wants. That's all.
Well,
he'll feel it in Buffalo.
He's found his place, he says.
They will love him there. Davante Adams spoke to the Rams, and as of this taping, for some reason, the video is not available literally anywhere. It's true. I can't believe it. I'm sure it will be later, but we will show a beautiful picture that our colleague, Jordan Rodriguez, took herself. Very professional. And I like the item of news that she put out there on Blue Sky. Not a great look for Eric, who put this together, that he's not following Jordan on Blue Sky. It's asking.
I'm not on Blue Sky. I actually get a little annoyed when you send me Blue Sky stuff because I'm like, I have to go, like, it's a weird crop.
Well, then just sign up for it, at least to help your job.
I do have your Blue Sky up on a permanent tab on my computer. I'll give you that.
Okay.
I don't need another app.
Now you're going out of your way to not. It doesn't matter.
What's the last app you put on your phone, Eric? What's the last app you put on your
Monopoly
phone?
Go.
Monopoly Go.
Yeah, if
So
that can
Monopoly
make it,
Go is taking
at
the
this
mental
point,
space.
right? It's part of the job. Sometimes I'm going to be asking.
Well, the
'cause
links
that's where Jordan is tweeting.
Here, open your settings. How much storage space do you have?
The links work, Greg. It works. It's just I don't need the app on my phone.
But it hurts my eyes to see plus follow in the corner of the graphic, which people can check out, by the way,
iPhone storage
on
I have
YouTube.
24 gigs open.
Hey,
Okay, you got
Blue Sky,
plenty
I
of
think
space.
25.
all
got
right,
plenty of space.
can we have the graphic up and
Sorry.
you check your settings at the same time?
Yeah, sorry.
So
That's my
she told a great story, or Davante told a great story that Jordan relayed about how Sean McVay narrated and detailed highlight cut-ups of Davante's game as he was recruiting him, about 10 minutes worth of highlights and McVay content. I want that content. And Adam said it was a big factor, just like how clear it was that they really wanted him and having a vision for it. Like, I would love to watch that 10 minutes.
And I bet that it wasn't something special that Sean McVay had to do. I bet he just had one. I bet he had a Davante Adams cut up that he had narrated already.
Stop.
No. I feel like that would be something
narrated.
Sean McVay would
I'm
do.
sure he has cut ups, but why would he be narrating it?
I think it was a cut up, and he pulled it up on his phone, hit voice memo, and was like right into it.
I mean, that's your idea. I know there was negotiations between Sean McVay and Amazon. Reportedly, he could have made $10 million a year to have the job that ultimately went to, why am I blanking on his name?
Kirk Herbstreit.
Curb Street. And that's how memorable Kirk's, broadcasting for Amazon has been. McVay would have been amazing, but he would make more than $10 million if he just had his own YouTube channel of him narrating highlights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There would never be a question of if the video would make it long enough to get to profitability. Like Sean McVay could yap, and it's not even yapping from Sean McVay.
No,
he
it's
would just be dropping straight knowledge.
You don't even need to go to the studios. You don't need to fly around the country. If you do a 10-minute video, McVay, on your own YouTube page 3 or 4 times a week, you saw what it did for Gruden. McVay would blow that out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Watch out, Brett Coleman. Trying to think of who else does that on YouTube. Watch out.